Lazarus is a central figure in one of Jesus' most memorable miracles, and his story is recounted in the Gospel of John, chapter 11. Lazarus was the brother of Martha and Mary, two women devoted to Jesus, who lived in the small village of Bethany near Jerusalem. The Bible describes Lazarus as a personal friend of Jesus, and it's clear from the account that Jesus cared deeply for him and his family. So much so that when news reached Jesus that Lazarus had fallen gravely ill, Jesus was moved. Yet, somewhat paradoxically, Jesus did not go to heal Lazarus immediately. Instead, he allowed a period of time to pass, during which Lazarus not only died but remained in the tomb for 4 days. From a Jehovah's Witness perspective, and as explained through their literature, this is highly significant. Jehovah's Witnesses emphasize that the condition of Lazarus at death was one of complete unconsciousness, a state of non-existence, not suffering anywhere or watching events from another realm. This belief stands in contrast to many mainstream doctrines of an immortal soul. According to witness teachings, the biblical account of Lazarus supports their understanding of death as a state of sleep like inactivity. When Jesus finally arrives at Bethany, Lazarus's body had already been placed in a tomb. Martha, Lazarus's sister, expressed faith that Lazarus would be resurrected on the last day. However, Jesus demonstrated his divine authority, granted by God, in a much more immediate way. He called Lazarus out of the tomb that very day. The miraculous resurrection was not presented as a soul returning from heaven or any spiritual realm, but rather as God's power, through Jesus, restoring a person to life here on earth. This event is of profound importance to Jehovah's Witnesses. For one thing, it substantiates the hope they have that the dead will be resurrected in the future under God's kingdom rule. If Jesus could restore Lazarus to life, they reason, then the promised future resurrection is neither mythical nor unrealistic. Lazarus's restoration to life, after 4 whole days in the tomb, emphasizes that the power of God's Spirit can overcome even decay and corruption, and that death itself is not a permanent boundary for Almighty God's ability to restore life. Another noteworthy aspect that Jehovah's Witnesses highlight is Jesus' reaction to Lazarus's death. The Bible states that upon meeting Lazarus's grieving family and seeing their pain, Jesus gave way to tears. Jehovah's Witnesses often discuss this detail to underscore that Jesus truly empathized with human suffering and loss. He was not detached or indifferent. Rather, he mourned along with Martha and Mary, which shows that God's Son feels genuine compassion for those who have lost loved ones. This moment also affirms that the resurrection hope is not merely an abstract promise. It is born out of true divine compassion and love for humankind. In addition, Lazarus's resurrection account provides a scriptural cornerstone for the witnesses' stance against the notion that the dead are aware or existing in another realm. Witnesses frequently ask, if Lazarus had been fully conscious in a heavenly paradise during those 4 days, would Jesus' miracle have been as merciful and kind as it was portrayed? If Lazarus had experienced a blissful existence apart from his body, calling him back to an imperfect world would seem unloving. But the narrative presents no such complication. Upon returning to life, Lazarus provides no extraordinary tales of an afterlife. This silence is viewed by Jehovah's Witnesses as powerful implicit evidence that Lazarus was simply unconscious, asleep, in death, up until the moment Jesus restored him. This biblical event also helped to solidify Jesus' reputation and identity before the Jewish crowds. Many who witnessed or learned of Lazarus' resurrection came to believe that Jesus was indeed sent by God. According to JW.org references, the account of Lazarus reinforced Jesus' claim to be the resurrection and the life. For Jehovah's Witnesses, this title implies not a mystical union with death, but rather that Jesus is the appointed means by which Jehovah God will restore life to those who have died. In other words, Lazarus' resurrection is seen as a proof, or a preview, of what Jesus, as King of God's kingdom, will accomplish on a grand scale when he ushers in the resurrection of the righteous and unrighteous into a renewed earth. Furthermore, Jehovah's Witnesses draw parallels between Lazarus' experience and the Bible's prophecies about the future. The account points forward to a time described in scriptures such as Acts chapter 24 verse 15 and Revelation chapter 21 verses 3 to 4, where death and suffering will be done away with. The resurrecting of Lazarus thus becomes not just an isolated miracle in the past but a tangible demonstration of God's promise for the future, promises in which witnesses profoundly anchor their faith. The theme of Lazarus's resurrection is commonly used in their Bible-based publications and discussions to console grieving families and offer reassurance about what they believe lies ahead for faithful mankind. It's worth mentioning that Lazarus does not appear in multiple stories throughout the Gospels as prominently as Mary or Martha, or some of Jesus' apostles. His major role is contained principally in John chapter 11 and its immediate aftermath. Still, that single episode is of immense doctrinal and emotional importance in the theology of Jehovah's Witnesses. It's referred to not only to counter popular teachings of an immortal soul or conscious afterlife state but also to galvanize hope in God's ability to reverse the effects of death on a global scale. For Jehovah's Witnesses, Lazarus's experience assures them that the resurrection is not a fanciful idea, but a historically attested miracle that reveals what Jehovah can and will do for others. Please share and like and please subscribe.